Welcome to Automate and to part 2 on this video series on XPath selectors. Let's begin by taking a look at the / symbol. That symbol simply means that it's referring to the root element. What is the root element, you ask? Here I'm on the eBay website. I'm going to right click on this search box and I'm going to say inspect. We see the developer console come up and this is an input element. So if I right click on here and I say copy, we're going to see an option for copy full XPath. I'm going to hit that and then I'm going to type Control F and then Control V to take a look at the complete XPath. And what is the first thing we see here? It's a /. So if you have just a / and nothing before it, that means that we're referring to the root element. Scroll to the top and we'll see the first element we see here is an HTML tag. And this is what this is here. And as you can see, this is really long way of finding an element. So I'm going to show you an easier way to shorten this down and make it simpler. Before we do that though, let me tell you one more thing about the /. I told you before that if you just have the / and nothing preceding it, that means that we're referring to the root element. But if you have the / with something behind it, the / is being used to talk about a descendant of another element. So in this case, I'm saying that the HTML tag has a descendant called body. And here the same way we're saying that the body has a descendant called header. So the / can mean two things. If it has nothing before it, it's referring to the root element. If it has something before it, it's talking about ancestry. Let's now talk about the //, in which case it means that we're talking about any element on the page. Let's say we want to find the same search box. I'm going to delete this. I can use any of these attributes. Let's say we want to find it by ID. I'm going to copy this ID and say / and then the name of the node. In this case, we have an input. I'm going to say input and then in brackets, I'm going to say @ symbol ID is equal to and then single quotes and put the name of the ID. As you can see, this is so much simpler and easier to understand. So just to recap, / means find me an element anywhere on this page. So let's say I want to have / input, and that produces 18 results. So it's finding the input elements anywhere on the page, and we have 18 different input elements on this page. We can do the same thing by typing div, and it finds 413 different div elements. Earlier, you saw me use the @ symbol. That symbol means that we're talking about a specific attribute for an element. So let's go back to the same example where we take a look at this box, inspect, and each of these things here, such as type, class, size, these are attributes for these elements. So I was using the ID. Let's use the name this time. Let's right click that, copy, and I'm going to say / input. And then in brackets, I'm going to put @ the attribute name is name. It's equal to, and then we put that inside single quotes, the name of the attribute. And here we have found the element. So that's what this @ means. We're referring to a specific attribute. So if I want to change it up and say I want to talk about a different attribute, such as role, I'm going to simply change this to role. And I'm going to say that the role is combo box. And again, we have found the same element. The next symbol we're going to talk about is the asterisk. That means that we're talking about any element on the page. We really don't know what the element is. So it's just a wildcard element. So I'm going to say / asterisk. And here it's found 3069 elements. And that's basically found every single element on this page. So say we want to be more specific, and then I'm going to say brackets. I'm going to take a look at this element here where we have ID equal to GH, right? So I'm going to say any element where the ID is equal to GH. And we have two of these. So there are two elements in which the ID is equal to GH. Let's now talk about using operators and functions in XPath. Here I have a list of categories, and we have subcategories. So let's say I want to take a look at this fantasy category. And here we see that it's inside an unordered list. So I'm going to open this up and I'm going to take a look at this. Here I have a class name. So perhaps I'll use this class name. I'm going to say find an element. So I'm going to copy that class name and I'm going to say that I want to find this anchor tag with this class name. So let's go ahead and do that. / a, and then inside brackets I'm going to say at class is equal to single quotes, and we put the class name. And unfortunately we haven't found the one that we need. We have found 261 different results. So let's try to narrow this down even further. Let's go back here and see what else we can use for this. Well, we know that this class name has some text called fantasy. So I'm going to use an operator. That operator is called AND. So the AND allows me to join another query. So in this case, I'm going to use a function. There's a function called text. I'm going to simply type text and then open and close parentheses. And I'm going to say that the text is equal to fantasy. And as we can see, we have found the specific element. So just to review, AND is an operator that allows you to join different queries. And text is a function that allows you to input specific text. By now, you're probably wondering what these brackets represent. You have a bracket here and a bracket here. These are called predicates. So predicates are used to find specific elements on a page. So here I have said there's an anchor tag, and the specific element that I want is this one that contains a class with this name and a text with this text. Let's dive deeper into predicates. So here I have a list of categories and we have subcategories. So let's say we want to find music, for example. So if I will go to inspect this element, I'm going to see that it's inside of an unordered list, item number 10 inside of the list. So I'm going to say something like this. First, I'm going to select this class here, / it's an unordered list in which the class is equal to this. And here we have the list of items. Next, I'm going to say /li, because li is a child of the unordered list. And in this case, we know that is the item number 10. So I can simply say brackets and put the number 10 inside of it. And we have found this item. However, you'll notice that there are 13 other items that match the same criteria. So in order to make it more unique, maybe we can select this anchor tag and say / anchor tag. And then again, we use another predicate. We're going to say text is equal to music. Now there's only one element that matches this criteria. Another useful function that you can use to refer to an element in a list is the last function. So in this case, let's say we want to select the last item here. We can simply change this number 10 to say last, and then open and close parentheses. That will give us the last element in the list. Let us introduce a new expression called dot. It is used to refer to the parent of a particular node. In this case, we have an anchor tag selected. If we wanted to refer to the parent of this anchor tag, which is this li, we would simply use /dot. We'll see li being highlighted. The same procedure can be used to select the parent of this li item, which is this list. So we would say /dot. As you can see, dot allows you to traverse the node hierarchy. Another concept that we have in XPath is something called axes, and it refers to a group of keywords that you can use to reference elements that are adjacent to the current node. To see an example of this, I'm going to take a look at this games element, and we see that is an image. I'm going to collapse this because I'm interested in all these anchor tags right here. We know that all these anchor tags fall beneath this div, and each one of these anchor tags are siblings to one another. So in this case, I'm going to right click this anchor tag and say copy XPath, and I'm going to paste it here. Now that I have found this one, let's say that I want to select the one that's before that. I'm going to say / preceding sibling colon A, because they are anchor tags. Interesting, it has found 7 results. Why? It's because there are 7 anchor tags that are sibling to this anchor tag. What about the ones that come after it? You would simply change this keyword to say following sibling. And now we have found 2. And indeed, there are 2 elements that are following this one here. And that's how easy it is to reference siblings. Another useful function that you can use in XPath is something called contains. It allows you to find a specific attribute or specific text pertaining to an element. Let us take a look at this example here, in which we want to find 1 or 2 years. Here I have an anchor tag with specific text, and go ahead and say // A, and then in brackets, I'm using a predicate here, I'm going to say contains. And since it's a function, we use parentheses, text. We've used text before, but in this case, we're not going to use the equal sign. Instead, we're going to put a comma. Every time we're using text and contains together, we have to use a comma. So we say comma and then the text. And we see that the element is found. I'm using single quotes the whole time here, but you can also use double quotes, and it works the same way, as you can see here. So just to recap, when you're using contains together with text, you must use a comma. You cannot use an equal sign. If we use an equal sign here, we see that there are 0 results. We can also use the contains function to find other attributes for an element. Let's take a look at this watch list element. I'm going to inspect it, and I see there's an anchor tag which contains a specific title. I'm going to copy this title, and I'm going to build an XPath with it. I'm going to say it's an anchor tag using the predicate contains open and close parentheses, and I'm going to say a title attribute, comma, and then the name of that attribute. Again, every time you're using contains, you must use commas instead of equal signs. Let us put to work all the things that we've learned about XPath so far. Here we have a list of checkboxes. Can you think of a way how we could find, say, this checkbox for Honda? I'm going to right-click this element and say inspect. So let's see if we can find it by class. Unfortunately, trying to find by class did not work, so we'll have to try a different method. I'm going to try to use this text. Here we can see that finding by text does work. We find 1 element. But now we want to find this checkbox. So if we put our cursor over this div, we see that it doesn't find it. If we put it here, we found it. One way in which I could do this is I can move up 1 element to this div by using // and then I can use the preceding sibling to find this span. And there we have found the checkbox, which is inside this span. So if we open this span, there's an input. And this appears to be what we really need. So we could simply say /input. What about finding an element that is inside of a dropdown? For example, this distance here. Here we have different options. Let's say I want to select 200 miles. I can right-click this element, and I see that there's a select element here with a bunch of options. I'm going to select this text. So I'm going to say option in which the text is equal to 200 miles. I really hope that after watching this video tutorial, you feel a lot more comfortable using XPath. It really isn't that difficult to use, and the more you practice, the better you'll become at it. So go out there and explore. If you would like to learn more, you can head over to W3 Schools, where you will find a lot more details on what we have discussed so far.